Hi dear friends, I am Danya Divagar. Once again a warm welcome to my channel Shades of Literature. Thanks to all out there for subscribing my channel and also for leaving your valuable comments. So in my last lecture I gave you a detailed explanation of Frantz Fanon's Wretched of the Earth, the first two chapters. The first chapter was titled as On Violence. In that chapter, Fanon speaks about decolonization and how decolonization can be attained. This is what Fanon says in his first chapter. He also speaks about the after effects of decolonization and the divisions in the society, also the power structures. He also pinpoints one question: how and why colonialism should be stopped. So he speaks about all these aspects in his first chapter. Now the second chapter is titled as Grandeur and Weakness of Spontaneity. In this chapter, Fanon speaks about the two divisions which happened in the society after decolonization, which is the first one is the urban proletariat and the second one is the lumpen proletariats. The urban proletariats, they just want their own welfare and their own upliftment, even though they say that they represent the colonized mass. Still then they are bothered about only themselves. Whereas the second group of people, termed as lumpen proletariats, or the real mass who represent the colonized nation, they are more bothered about attaining decolonization and attaining freedom. So Fanon speaks about these two classes of people in his second chapter. Coming to the third chapter, which is titled as Trials and Tribulations, Fanon begins the chapter by saying or explaining a particular concept, which is national consciousness. Now, what would be this national consciousness? Have you ever thought about it? We all say, we all have lots to speak when it comes to national consciousness. Isn't so? Fanon clearly states that national consciousness is not the coordinated crystallization of the powerful feelings or aspirations of people. Rather, it is a crude, empty, fragile shell. Now, what would this be? It's very shocking to hear such an explanation by Fanon. He clearly explains it further by saying that there are cracks in national consciousness. This is what he says. There are loopholes, or there are, it's not completely or totally packed, the feeling of national consciousness. There are lots of cracks here and there. This is what Fanon says. How or what will happen when such cracks come into a concept such as national consciousness? It's very interesting. Fanon says that when such cracks appear, the nation gets to be divided, or the nation degrades to a state, to a ethnic group, or to a tribe. So this is what Fanon says. He further explains the same concept by saying that who are responsible for this kind of degradation? He says that none other than national bourgeoisies are responsible for this degradation. How are national bourgeoisie acting as a catalyst for this degradation? He says that as soon as the colonial powers exit a nation which was colonized by them, as soon as they exit, the next group of people to come into the limelight and take up the power is the national bourgeoisie. So don't get confused. National bourgeoisie is the learned people. They represent the total population of the nation. Just in one aspect they are different from the peasant masses or the common people, just in one aspect, that is they are learned people. Nothing other than that makes them superior to that of the common mass. So this is what Fanon says. He explains. So I'll just give brief. He explains about national consciousness. So the people who are responsible for this degraded position of a nation, they are the national bourgeoisie. Then he speaks about how does they take up power. He says that after the colonial powers exit, they just come in and take up power. He also says that these national bourgeoisies are good for nothing. They are inactive compared to the real mass of the nation. They are inactive. They doesn't produce nor invest anything. They are not good entrepreneurs. They doesn't know how to do business. So they're good for nothing people. They just don't do actual work. This is what Fanon says, which is very funny. Even now in our contemporary society, even now we come to see such national bourgeoisies. Isn't so? Yes, we come to see such people very often in our society also. So now coming to the second part of the third chapter, Fanon now explains. So in the first part, Fanon speaks about the degraded position of a nation, who is responsible for this. He speaks that there is a crack in the society, and now in the second part, Fanon explains, or he just idolizes, or just he expects how a national bourgeoisie should be. He clearly says that national bourgeoisies represent the common people. What should they do? They should come out of the city life and they should come to the rural areas, settle there, teach the common man about all those Western concepts or ideologies or knowledge whichever they have obtained from the Western universities. So only such a true national bourgeoisie can think good about a nation. This is what Fanon says in the second part of the third chapter. He also says, Fanon also says that the true national bourgeoisies, those people who really strive out and work for the common mass, they are the real heroes. No other person can work for the common mass other than the national bourgeoisie. This is what he speaks in the second part of the third chapter. Now coming to the last section of the third chapter, Fanon vehemently criticizes the national bourgeoisies. So you should understand, he starts by saying something about the national consciousness. He comes into a second part where he speaks about how a national bourgeoisie should be in his opinion, or like how it should be. He says that in the second part, and in the third part he criticizes, which means we should understand that nothing was happening or nothing was fine in those days also. So the power structures which happened in the society was not like appreciable enough. So this is what Fanon says. In the third section of the third chapter, Fanon vehemently criticizes the national bourgeoisies. He says that they doesn't know actual economics. National bourgeoisies, they doesn't know actual economics. They doesn't produce, they neither produce nor invest, because they doesn't know the work structure of the nation. They're just learned people, no practical knowledge is for them. They just have some ideas in their mind, and with these ideas they just come and conquer. As soon as the colonial powers left, these people just came in, they acted as the Western people and they conquered, or they tried to rule the common mass. This is what they did. In fact, they would have acted as, or they should have worked amongst the common people and tried to bring or try to give everyone a better life. This is what the national bourgeoisie should have done, but they didn't do that. Fanon criticizes that. He also says that these national bourgeoisies, they took up those businesses which were left over by the colonial powers. We know, like as and when the colonial powers left our nation, the very nation of ours, when they left, lots of industrial packages were there in our country. So whichever was left over, it was taken up by the national bourgeoisies, and further they started constructing on that. So all the profit which came on from that was taken over by the national bourgeoisie, and the common mass or the lumpen proletariats, they just went into a status of deterioration. Fanon also says that when these national bourgeoisies tried to imitate and identify themselves with the colonial powers, they are creating a situation of neo-colonialism. And he concludes the chapter by saying that nation building is not at all easy and there are no shortcuts to build up a nation. With this note, he ends his third chapter. And as I told you previously, I'll be coming up with my fourth chapter in my next video. So until then, Stay safe at home. Take care. Subscribe my video. Also leave your valuable comments in my comment box. And please don't forget to ping on the bell button so that you get notified whenever I upload a video. So thank you.